I'd like to tell you about something that happened to me a couple of years ago. I was visiting a school where I'd been asked to deliver some teacher training, and the school had invested quite a significant amount of money and time in order for us to train a group of teachers. I turned up and was welcomed, and we started the training that morning. Morning break time came, and I was asked to put some money into a tin for coffee. Absolutely fine, no problem with that. Had the coffee, and then at lunchtime, the people I was training started to have their lunch. And then I asked if there was anywhere I could buy lunch, and they said, oh, yes, there's a shop sort of down the road. Okay. Went and got myself some lunch, and then came back and said, is there anywhere I can get a coffee? And the teachers looked at each other and said, oh, there was coffee at the coffee break this morning. And I said, yes, I know, I put some money in the tin. And I said, oh, well, we don't have coffee at lunchtime. And they looked at each other, and one of them said, I've got some coffee. I'll go and get some out of my locker, and you can have a spoonful of my coffee. But tomorrow, would you mind bringing some sachets from your hotel? I'm telling you that because I feel that that was a complete reflection upon leadership within that school. I don't blame the teachers. There was obviously a culture that was evident, that was shouting that there was something wrong. And it was no surprise to me to find that that school was in special measures. Incredibly sad, and it made me wonder how that affected the students as well as the teaching team. I'm not a school leader. I never have been, but I have been a teacher, and I have been a leader in a number of sectors. And I find it fascinating when I visit schools, and I'm pretty much able to say how well that school's doing by the reception that I get when I arrive in the school. It's really fascinating. I was in a taxi recently, and I arrived at a school, and the taxi driver asked me if I was a school inspector, and I said, no, I'm not, but maybe in the next 10 minutes I might be able to give you an idea of how I think that school's doing. And I think that's incredibly powerful, because you need to understand, as I'm sure so many of you do, that what you're projecting is actually contagious. Leadership is contagious, and you really need to understand that that what you show and demonstrate will prevail, and that will be infectious. I believe that management is a function. Getting many things done is just a function. But actually, how can we make that function more effective, and how can we make it fit? Who likes, put your hand up if you prefer Marmite. Put your hand up if you prefer Nutella. Okay. Actually, bread is functional. We all need to eat. You could have bread in the morning and that would be enough. But how can we make any directive or message or function more palatable, attractive, satisfactory, hopefully appealing? There are lots and lots of different ways that we're doing that. And this is a daft example, but I want to just show you that just by instantly taking a count on that, it's looking at the fact that people respond differently to different things. And how we package things as a leader is incredibly important, because we do need to adjust our style. It might be the same message, it might be the same end goal, but we do need to adjust what we're doing to suit a range of learning styles. We talk about personalised learning all the time, and nobody here is new to that at all. But are you leading by offering personalised management? Are you offering personalised leadership? How are we actually imparting that message to our managers and getting the best out of them? Message that I'd like about.
Training fleas requires a glass jar with a lid. The fleas are placed inside the jar, and the lid is then sealed. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behaviour is now set for the rest of their lives. And, when these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example.
I think we can all relate to that message, and we can all think of students that applies to. But as managers and leaders, I want you to think about that. I want you to think about expectations and what we expect of our managers and teachers, and how we really can get the most out of the day, out of the service that we provide for the people that really, really need it. I was talking to Sue Williamson recently, and as ever, talking about the need to link business with education and how we can learn from each other. But also looking at the things that are completely parallel. And Sue was saying that as an outstanding head, she often used to sit and reflect, as we're all encouraged to do as teachers. And that what she used to consider was, what had she done that worked? And why did it work? Was it just luck? Was it timing? Was it skill? But more importantly, could it be repeated? Is it replicable? I had the pleasure of working with somebody who set up Pizza Express many years ago. And in one of my previous roles, I helped to develop a restaurant brand and group in London. And I learned so much from that experience. It was fascinating. And I have been able to apply a lot of that to sound training. And I think that everybody can, because it's about looking at key ingredients. It's looking at strict processes, guidelines, expectations. And yes, of course, as Dominic said this morning, it's not the same CD that suits every situation. We have to adapt that. But actually, there are lots of things that can be repeated and replicated, and we need to remember that too. The reason it's helped sound training is that we've actually worked so hard to make sure that our standards are in place, our systems are in place, and we've trained about 900 teachers now, and about 35,000 students have benefited from sound training and the consistent impact and the results that are achievable. And that's because of the model that we've adopted, and I now call it the Pizza Express model, because I want to know that sound training sessions in Cornwall are the same as sound training sessions in a school in Middlesbrough. One of the other things that struck me about what Sue was saying, and it was a bit of a theme this morning as well, is the need for innovation. We need to be brave, we need to learn from mistakes. Katie Parkinson, who is the founder director of Sound Training, was very brave, and she wasn't prepared to accept what students were achieving in Middlesbrough. She went away and devised a program and worked really, really hard to come up with something that would stretch and challenge and give students the strategies that they need to achieve more. And there's so much that we can do to actually embrace that and embrace innovation. One of the challenges that we've had is getting the message into schools in terms of what we can offer. And somebody said to me, actually, it must be really easy because you just go along to schools that are failing. It's not true. It's not true at all, because it's often the schools who are doing really well, who have innovative leaders who are willing to embrace a new idea and really run with it. I read a book fairly recently that inspired me, and it's called The Lean Startup. And it's all about entrepreneurialism, and it was set around the Silicon Valley in the technical industry. But something that really stuck with me was that they talk about the skateboard model. And what Katie did was that she had an idea, and she didn't wait for years until she was absolutely sure. She actually got started. She was brave enough to get started with it. She didn't say, oh, it won't work because nobody will want to do it, the teachers won't want to do it. she actually was determined to start it in whatever form that might be. She started it with what's called a skateboard model. The next stage to get it to is a scooter, because what you do is you learn from your mistakes, you get feedback, you find out what works, you review and reflect. At the moment, we're probably on to the go-kart type model, but my mission is to get to the Formula One car. That's my dream, but I wish as leaders that more people would embrace that skateboard model, because I think there's so much to be said by just embracing innovation and getting started with something. Nothing great is achieved by staying in a comfort zone. Comfort zones came up this morning, and we're all guilty of it. But please, please remember that we need to stretch ourselves, we need to stretch our students, we need to stretch our teams and our managers, and particularly middle managers, to make sure that things are achievable and that the impossible is actually possible. Another thing that's really important that I talked to Sue about is partnerships. And I'm a great believer in that. And I'm really proud of the fact that we work with some amazing schools throughout the country and now further afield in the United States. And I've invited one of those schools in particular, Akram Grange School, to come along and join us today. They're going to talk to you about how they implement some of the things that I've talked about and how it works in practice within a school. I'd like to welcome Sarah and Johnny. Thanks, Sarah and Johnny. I've just got one more short video clip to show you.
Oh no! I'm lost! Where's the line? It just went away! Dude, what do I do? Help! We'll be stuck here forever!
Do not panic! Do not panic! We are trained professionals! Now stay calm. We are going around the leaf.
Around the leaf? I don't think we can do that.
Oh, nonsense. This is nothing compared to the twig of 93. That's it. That's it. Good. You're doing great. There you go. There you go. Watch my eyes. Don't look away. And here's the line again.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Soil.
Good job, everybody.
There's a phrase, learned helplessness, that I'm reading quite a bit at the moment. And obviously it's something that we're not trying to achieve. Quite the opposite. But learned helplessness is actually prevailing in a lot of situations. Would your middle managers be able to walk around the leaf? Would they know how to move the leaf? Would they know what to do? Are you empowering them like Akram Grange are to have the skills and strategies that they need to achieve and feel proud of their work and to feel empowered? I was on a management course about 25 years ago. I'll shut up in a minute. I was on a management course about 25 years ago, and there was a case study about a large company that were underperforming, and they'd brought in some consultants. All the senior management arrived on the Monday morning and were sent home. The middle managers that managed to manage their teams and departments over the next 2 weeks without any contact from their senior managers were very, very successful. And what happened was the ones that needed to be in touch with their senior managers resulted in the senior managers being made redundant because there was a dependency, there was a lack of empowerment and a missed opportunity for training and investing time in that middle management structure. And it's something that we really, really must all consider. Please remember that if you're inspiring, that if you're encouraging someone to dream or learn, you're a leader. I've got my coffee sachets, but I hope I don't need them in many schools. I hope that there's a culture that permeates and that's contagious, that's one of aspiration and innovation and sound leadership. Thanks for listening.